Oh, nothing is better than Gusty Garden, especially when you hear it like that. Hello, everybody. This is Rolo the Puerto Rican Pistolero coming to you live from beautiful, sunny Puerto Rico. It has been a beautiful day here, uh, and it's been an interesting week, hasn't it? I'm probably going to be a little bit low energy. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those days where you feel a little bit down, and there's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things going on, but it's just one of those days where I just feel I have a tendency, and I think many of you that have followed me over the years have known that I am fairly well. I think it depends on the day that you catch me on. Some days I'm extremely optimistic about things, but historically I'm extremely pessimistic about a lot of things. As I've become more in tune with my faith, I've definitely become much more optimistic in the sense that I don't feel hopeless, but I definitely have a lot less faith in people and humanity, and I really trust way less people than I ever have in my entire life over the past few years. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, or maybe I've just become cynical as the years have gone by and life experiences have taught me a lot of different things. But that's pretty much where I am. So I'm not really sure where the show is going to go today. I've got a few different topics. Hopefully, I can find a way to pull it through 2 hours without either getting way too negative about stuff or talking about things that I really shouldn't talk about. So that's going to be a little bit difficult for me. I think I will probably start. And I always get critiques from the old man after the shows. He's like, "Oh man, you started kind of slower. I wasn't sure where you were gonna go." So I'm interested to see where he goes from there. But I think one of the things, and this has been happening a little bit more and more with each episode, is I think we're reaching a point where, especially when it comes to political events and anything that's happening in the mainstream media, well, I don't even know if you want to call it the mainstream media, anything that's going on outside of the entertainment space, it is so difficult to find out whether sources are credible or not. And there is a campaign of disinformation and demoralization, the likes of which that I've never seen before in the United States, that it becomes it becomes more and more difficult to discuss current events as they go along with any sort of certainty. And I feel that I'm somebody that's always wanted to educate the audience and kind of reveal a little bit more about what I think is going on and do that with facts, or even if I have speculation based on my knowledge of history and the like. But I think that we're really entering, and we have been for a while, uncharted territory. And a lot of what we see out there is clearly BS. And that makes me a lot less confident to be able to talk about certain things without wondering if it's just going to go wrong the next day, or it's going to be proven false. So I guess we can start a little bit. Well, let's talk about the weekend first, because we do have a lot of great things that happened. And so we can start on a positive note, and we can start on a positive note, and then we can kind of move on to current events and kind of where I see things, and what I think about things, and kind of the direction that I'm probably going to go forward, because I think I'm going to talk about current events and politics a lot less as time goes on, because honestly, I'm extremely cynical about everything, and I don't want to be another voice of negativity out there. And over the years, though I've always been very frank and blunt about things, I think for a long time I always wanted to try to keep things very positive, whether that's about, what's going on in the world, where things are going, the state of this country, yeah, even everything going down into, really what's going on in society, culture, and and even going into the family. And I can tell you that I'm a lot more pessimistic about a lot of things than I've ever have been before. And I think each day it becomes a little bit harder to discuss, especially things in the social media space. I have a lot of discipline when it comes to not discussing, I guess you could call it like personal matters or things that I know about a lot of different people. And as I see where things are going, and so much of the grift that is going on in the political and entertainment space, it becomes extremely difficult for me to bite my tongue. And that would probably be to my detriment if I don't continue to do so. And I've always prided myself in not talking about things that are not relevant necessarily, or that, really people should know or hear about. But as I see more and more content creators, especially in the political space, and even a lot of the overlap that I've had with organizations that I've been involved with in the past, it's difficult not to kind of look at things through a few different lenses, and to say that, though I certainly wish certain trajectories certain things had gone certain ways in the past, the more that I see how people that I've been involved with are involved with a lot of people that are crazy or just kind of full of shit, it almost makes me grateful that I'm not involved in a lot of the things that I used to be. And it also gives a certain amount of validation to things that I saw in moments where I stood my ground. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. I think those of you that have watched me for a long time kind of know a lot of things that have gone on in the past, or have seen a lot of these things as well. You've seen how different content creators have worked, and how they've been involved with one another, and how they've just gone into infighting, how they've gone into conspiracy and started destroying one another. And it's very much discouraging, because there are a lot of people that I thought for a long time had a lot of integrity. And it's very clear that people can be easily bought off. And I will share a story. It's not necessarily relevant about this, but I think it's good to share these lessons. And I know that a lot of you have gotten into streaming over the last few years, and that have been involved in a lot of things. So I think it behooves me to share some wisdom over the experiences that I've had over the last few years, and in ways that I become jaded, and just tell people to be careful who you deal with, and not just anyone specifically, just in general. If you're dealing in the social media and content creator space, that a lot of people most people really only care about what benefits them, and they will do anything they'll backstab anybody, basically, to get on top, or to try to play the algorithm or do things like that. And you're really seeing it in the social media space. I think it's pretty obvious when you watch people like Candace Owens and even Tucker Carlson, that they've literally gone off the deep end. And it doesn't really matter whether you agree with or disagree with everything that they say entirely. I think it's very obvious when people have just gone completely off the deep end, and they start throwing things that are pretty crazy. And I'm using them as examples because I've not worked with them personally. There are a lot of other people, that I have, or that have a few degrees of separation from a lot of those people. But it is discouraging to see that. Now, somebody like Candace Owens, to me, it's obvious that she's always been a grifter. People have been saying that for years, and she used to be on the left. So she's definitely a political mercenary, and will push any narrative that is convenient for her. And especially considering her background and the people that she's involved with, including her own husband, it's very obvious that she's got certain axes to grind, and there's no level of depravity that she'll sink to. Tucker Carlson's a little bit different, but he's a political elite, and I think he's always been. So he's stuck in the Beltway, and there's just a lot of things going on that bother me when it comes to that stuff. And that's not to say that I trust everybody else that's on the opposing side of that. I've been disappointed by a lot of different people. And again, it makes things, it makes it tough to be in this space and to want to be involved with really anybody. And again, and I'm going at like 30,000 feet here, but I will say when I started doing this many years ago, when it was first all about the Second Amendment, and before it was Rolo the Puerto Rican Pistolero, when it was the Locked and Loaded Latinos back in the day, I remember being mentored by a lot of individuals that I respect, and especially being I mean, I hate to say it because I hate identity politics, but being a Latino that was going into a space that was stereotypical, that had a lot of stereotypes involved. You know, for years, the left and the progressives have always tried to paint the Second Amendment community as specifically only like a white male redneck kind of community, which couldn't be further from the truth. And one of my goals back then was to try to shed light on the fact that that's not true whatsoever. The Second Amendment really is for everybody. And I wanted to educate, especially those that weren't traditionally involved in the Second Amendment community, and educate them on the Constitution, on our First and Second Amendment rights, their legal rights, and really to know that every political party at some point will betray you. And the Republicans really are worst of all, because the Democrats, we've always known what the Democrats and the left are up to. It's the GOP that continues to disappoint and betray us. And I think we've reached a level where I called the old man earlier today. And, you know, I go off on a lot of things and all the time. And I would say that what you guys see on the rant is definitely after I've already vented to a lot of other people and I've kind of cooled down about things, and I can discuss things with a little bit more of a level head. But what we're seeing with the right-wing commentary space and the GOP is nothing that any of us should be surprised about, but it's extremely disheartening because we're essentially trapped if we're on the right. And now more than ever, I truly believe that, because there are a lot of times in the past where I would have said that, you know, screw the Republican Party. We're just not going to vote for them. But the more obviously demonic and evil the Democratic Party becomes, the more that you see the globalists, the corporations, our supposed allies in Europe, and all of these elites really fight against what it is that America stands for, fight against the American people, and push rampant, unrestricted immigration, constant betrayals, a disdain for Christianity, a disdain for the citizenry of this country. It really does make you feel that as much as I despise the GOP and what they do, we really are being held hostage. And I don't really have any solutions for this, because it's very obvious that look, I've told you what I think is going on with Iran and everything like that. I don't buy the Israel narratives. I don't really care what anybody has to say about that. Every country is in it for themselves. And I think that when we get angrier at Israel than we do at Europe, or even our own politicians here that have a lot more control than that, frankly, I think it's kind of a cop-out, and it's a weak argument. I won't say that I'm one of those Christians that, like most Protestants, or I wouldn't say most, like a lot of evangelicals believe that, you know, is modern Israel the same thing as biblical Israel? I really don't know. And that's honestly a debate that before Israel came back in 1948, at least the modern incarnation, it's something that even Protestants and Catholics really didn't know, because the country didn't exist for a long time. So there's been a debate about this in the theology for hundreds and even 1,000 years right now. And I'm not really one to say whether they are or aren't. I know that Jerusalem itself is a sacred place. I'd honestly rather have the Israelis in charge of it than have the Muslims in charge. And I do think that Islam is a bigger threat than anything else that stands between us. It's communism and Islam are really the 2 points of evil here. Uh, so that's really where I have to stand with all that. And I also understand Israel's perspective. If I were them, I would probably do a lot of the same things that they do all the time. They're trying to protect their sovereignty, and they're surrounded by a bunch of countries that believe in a faith that's absolutely demonic and psychotic. So if we were surrounded by countries that were like that, we would probably do a lot of what they do as well. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that they influence a lot of things, and obviously they take advantage of the good faith of Christians in this country, and they take advantage of the fact that President Donald Trump is very close with them. And I think that a lot of the actions that we've had recently may have been tipped, or we've moved a little bit faster than I would have thought that we should have. But at the same time, when I look at our allies throughout the world and see that they're completely unwilling to do anything and make any sort of sacrifices, and the Israelis are the only country that's getting attacked and has any sort of skin in the game, and that are willing to bomb the crap out of other people that really are evil, and we're the only ones that do that as well, it really does make me think, is there anybody else in this world that is worth having as an ally on our side, even if they're not the perfect ally, because nobody else is going to be? I can't really, there's no argument that can really be made that says who else would be better. And honestly, in the position that we are in as the United States right now, we really have no friends and allies. We don't. I also happen to know a lot of people that fought in the war on terror that have worked with Israelis in the past and have worked with the IDF, and they've had nothing but great things to say. And they've completely said horrible things about all of our European allies, at least politically. So that's really what I'm going to go with there. So we're mostly alone. The Israelis are the only other country, the only other people that are willing to fight in any sort of capacity against some of the evil that we've got out there. And compared to the amount of money that we've thrown away to Europe, at least there's some sort of benefit there. And honestly, I don't really have any sympathy for any of the people that the Israelis bomb. I honestly don't give a shit. I don't really care what happens in Gaza or what happens to the Palestinians, and I make no bones about it. People can call it genocide. They can call it whatever they want. I call it another day where you're trying to eliminate the scourge of Islam off the face of the planet, and I really have no sympathy for it. And if that bothers a lot of people, and if they do that, I don't care. And that doesn't mean that I endorse everything that they do, but I think one of the weaknesses that the United States has had, that Donald Trump has shown, is that we no longer treat our enemies the way that we should. And that is, when we previously fought wars that we actually won, it was for total victory, unconditional surrender, and it was by completely annihilating our adversaries, because honestly, that is how the world works. Nobody in this world, especially our enemies, understands anything other than extreme force. And there are very few countries that fight this way anymore. And that is why we as the West have been completely wrecked and taken advantage of for the last few years, because we focused on bullshit like okay, let's go back. See, now I'm in a rant. This is going to go all over the place, but I don't really care. When Donald Trump let out that tweet the other day that he was going to basically bomb Iran into the Stone Age and was going to throw them into the darkness and all this stuff, and all these people came out and they started talking about war crimes. They started talking about the Geneva Convention. I was like, you know what, people? You all can go F yourselves, because this is total horseshit what you're talking about. Because we know that throughout history, the only thing that has been effective, especially when you're fighting against the scourge of Islam, is total destruction. That is the only language that these people understand, and is the only thing that you can possibly do against them. There is no sympathy here. There is no negotiating here. All you can do is beat them into the ground until they surrender, or there's none of them left. That's really all that you can do. And if that sounds politically incorrect, if that sounds really mean, if that sounds like how you build up enemies, well, I really don't give a damn, because the last two countries that we actually did that to were Germany and Japan, and look how they ended up now. They ended up being two, at least for a long time, two of our greatest allies. The Japanese are still freaking awesome, and the Japanese are probably the closest example that we have of fighting a nation that's like an Islamic nation, because they literally believed that their emperor was a god, and they used suicidal tactics against us And how did we end up having to deal with them? We dropped 2 nuclear bombs on them, and they still barely surrendered. And what was the plan? See, here's the other thing, too. We don't understand how to win anymore in this country, because for a long time we've been so worried about doing things the right way and doing all these things and worried about this, that we give up our victory every time that we're about to win. And whether you wanted to get into this war or not, once we're in it, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. I don't want to be in a position that makes the United States weaker. And especially knowing that every single country on the face of the planet is against the United States, essentially, I don't believe in conceding any ground here. And as I've said, the United States is essentially on life support. We have been sucked dry from every other country, from every politician, from every un-American corporation, leftist, communist, Islamo-fascist, and everything in between, gay race communism here that has infected this country from top to bottom, that I am sick and tired of losing, and I am sick and tired of having mercy for our enemies. That is where I'm at. And anybody that seems to be against that, I mean, I don't really know what else you want and where you think we are in this world right now that we can stand by and not really go into all of this full in. And I'm talking about economic warfare, holding our allies, our supposed allies, accountable, and holding our enemies really to account. And this is where I think Trump has moved in the right direction. And there are other ways where I think he's been weak. I think he's been weak against China in a lot of ways, because I think he's pussyfooting around how we really need to speak to these communists in China and how we should treat Xi Jinping. I think that in going to Iran, I don't understand why, when we were already, was Trump a little bit naive in expecting what was going to happen in the Strait of Hormuz? I could have told him what was going to happen there. That of course the Iranians were going to try to blockade it. Of course the European shipping companies were going to be too punk ass to try to run the blockades and really show things here. And especially after we sunk that Iranian ship with a submarine and we saw the pearl clutching by the rest of the world. Do you know how many thousands of ships we sunk, that the Nazis sunk, that the Japanese sunk during World War II? The millions of tons of shipping that went on. This is the problem that we have today. Nobody knows how to fight a damn war and what the cost of it is. And that's a consequence of globalism too, because this is exactly what the globalists wanted. The globalists wanted to make us so interdependent on one another that we could never unravel the connections that we have and break away and become an independent country. Now, part of that was our own country, right? Because we inherited the empires of Europe that collapsed after World War II, and we took full advantage of it. There's no denying that whatsoever. But now that we finally are in a position to try to crush these people and make some sort of headway, what happens? Everybody's too punk ass to go through with it, because everybody knows the truth. Here's the fact of the matter, and I've said this many times, and I said this last week, and I'm going to reiterate it, and it's going to piss a lot of people off. And again, I'm just sick and tired of all of this. You see, we have people that are grifting, that will do whatever they want to get the narrative, to make money. And then we have other people that are too afraid to call other people out and call their bullshit out. And I'm sick and tired of it. It's all crap. Everybody's a bunch of punk asses right now. Either they're liars or they're being punk asses. That's what we're dealing with here. And I'm sick and tired of the bullshit. I really am. So it's obvious the United States is in a position, we're on a precipice of failure. That's really where we are. We've been sucked dry. Our debt is through the roof. Our shipping has been hollowed out. All of our factories have been moved away. We've allowed tens of millions of illegals to come into this country, steal our welfare, commit crimes like crazy. And we've allowed the left to make us feel guilty about caring about our heritage, about caring about the Constitution, about wanting to push people out and to get justice, not only for people whose lives have been destroyed, but justice against the elites that caused all of this. And yeah, I'm tired of it. I'm tired that I'm tired of the fact that we get taken advantage of every day, and I'm also tired of the fact that every time that it seems like we start making some headway, nobody's willing to go through with what actually needs to happen here. And we know what needs to happen here. Do we think that getting what we want is not going to have consequences? Let's go through everything that that was on the plate when the Trump presidency started. And again, this is an endorsement of Trump because I also think in some ways Trump hasn't handled things as well as he should have. In other ways, I think he's been a punk ass as well when it comes to certain things. Now, I do show a little bit of grace in the fact that, yeah, if I was given the folder that shows that we're basically cooked, I'd feel pretty bad about that. And if you're trying to be a leader that leads a nation out of crisis, you don't necessarily have the luxury to tell people, well, guys, we're totally screwed. So I'm going to do a lot of things. There's probably going to be there's going to be suffering here, especially economically. And at the end of the day, your sacrifices may be for nothing because we might be totally cooked. And I wholeheartedly accept that may be and is probably the case of what is going on right now. But let's look at where we were when we came into this. Inflation was through the roof. The left had controlled the media companies, social media. They were debanking people. They were deplatforming people. You couldn't go against transgenderism. You couldn't go against Islam. You couldn't call out illegal immigration. You couldn't call out the jab and what happened with COVID. Everything was considered politically incorrect. People lost their jobs. People lost their lives. You couldn't call out all the bullshit that happened during the Summer of Love with George Floyd and the race baiting narrative that the left was pushing. And at the same time, we have a GOP that pays lip service and stabs us in the back at every corner. That's what we were dealing with. And we were dealing with allies that don't do anything, have allowed themselves to be invaded, destroy freedom of speech, and arrest their own citizenry for doing what I'm doing right now. Not even anything controversial. People that aren't having calls to violence or to overthrow their governments, just saying, hey, there's a bunch of foreigners that are coming into this country. They're screwing everything up and they're stealing everything from us. And that's what we were dealing with. That's what we were dealing with. And we had our own intelligence agencies that were destroying us. We had President Trump get impeached twice. They took him to court on bullshit charges multiple times. They made up January 6th was based on pretty much everything that we know, even though we haven't gotten to the bottom of it, was a false flag. And then we had a lot of people make a lot of promises to us that didn't end up being true. So, of course, we had a lot of hope when Donald Trump came back in. And I think he saw where things lie, and you had to start making a priority. And the fact of the matter is, prices in the United States are too high. Unemployment, especially for the youth, is too high. Housing is too expensive. Healthcare is too expensive. AI is going to start annihilating a lot of white-collar jobs, and they already have in a lot of these companies. We see companies firing people by the thousands every single day. Culture was totally woke, and we saw the propaganda that was being pushed in our entertainment. And that's where we were. And we started getting a lot of it back. The problem is that simultaneously, Trump didn't push hard enough, or maybe he went too far on the foreign affairs side of things and started dealing with all that. But I really don't know. Like when you start looking at, we don't have enough natural resources that are under our control to be able to become independent. Because I'd love to become Fortress America, but even I've had to reconcile the fact, how do we become Fortress America? We have to bring factory work back to the United States. How are we going to do that? It takes decades to build some of these factories, especially when it comes to microchips, oil refineries, shipbuilding, all of these stuff. We've been hollowed out of critical sectors of the economy that are needed for a superpower to survive because we allowed the globalists and we allowed our own greed, let's be honest. And I'm not talking about all of us personally. This is collectively for 3 or 4 generations that the American people became fat, happy, and lazy. And we accepted that you could get things cheaper and cheaper while our dollar became weaker and weaker. We got off the gold standard. We showed grace to adversaries that never deserved it, like China, in order to try to break the Soviet Union when it was obvious that the Soviets were eventually going to fall apart on their own. And we did it. Why? Because corporations wanted to make more money, and they convinced Americans by bringing in more and more illegals that certain jobs were beneath us and that we needed an underclass of illegal aliens to do our labor for us, or we needed to export those jobs overseas where there were no restrictions onto the amount of pollution that those companies could produce, the slave wages that they got, and the amount of hours that people had to work. So we moved past all of that because we were too civilized. But all we did was we washed our hands of the dirty work because we wanted cheap shit. And we became stupefied because we allowed our media, we allowed our politicians, and we allowed ourselves to become corrupted by our own greed and our desire to have more, and more, because we became a godless society. And ultimately, that really is the crux of the issue. It's that we allowed the enemy to take over and start hollowing us out from the inside. And we became sedated. We became sedated to everything. We didn't see what they were doing when they pushed all this stuff, even when they started pushing feminism to an extreme level. Not that women don't deserve equal rights, but it should have become obvious that as they started pushing feminism at the detriment of masculinity, that there was something a little bit more here than just getting equality for people, that they wanted to destroy men and masculinity because they did not want people to be able to stand up against them once everything was too late. They wanted to make men feel guilty, make men feel weak, destroy fatherhood, and in doing so, destroy religion and the church. And we did that to ourselves by allowing it to happen, by the way. So this is everything that's been going on for the last few decades here in this country. And we sat around and we totally accepted it. We did. Because entertainment, conveniences, technology got so much better. So we were able to multiply the amount of work that we were able to do, but slowly and surely inflation started increasing, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. And we live in a society that has become so weak and so indulgent that even when we tried to get rid of TikTok a few years ago, you saw people cry foul, and they would have turned against political parties in their own country just to make bullshit videos on the internet. That is where we are. And we live in an entirely service-based economy that produces almost absolutely nothing. The fact that there are thousands of people that do what I'm doing right now and they make millions of dollars off of it is a bit absurd when you think about it. And you know, hey, that's great. That's the power of capitalism. But the problem is that they took advantage of that because we accepted capitalism to the extreme without any sort of morality or introspection. And that is where we are right now. That is where we are right now. And we are paying the consequences for it. So now, when we finally have some sort of semblance of any sort of government that says, we're going to have to undo this stuff, the minute that anything happens, tariffs, conflict, undermining our adversaries, calling out certain people, doing all this stuff, then everybody's like, whoa, I don't want to do that. That's not going to work out for me. And I get it. There are a lot of targets that we're not going after that we should have. The Epstein list should have been released immediately, unredacted. That was a huge mistake. It absolutely is. And that is going to be the biggest thing that hurts Trump with the youth in this country. And even though a lot of polling is very strange right now and actually shows that Trump's poll numbers have gone up in the last couple of weeks, and there's a few reasons behind that, and it really has nothing to do with any of this stuff, that just undermines exactly what is going on here. At the same time, I go back to where we are. How many of us are willing to accept, and you be perfectly honest, don't talk shit. How many of us are willing to accept? A lot of you have families. A lot of you have children. Again, I'm an unmarried man. I have no kids. So if you tell me that the economy is going to collapse, and I've collected a stockpile of survival gear over the last decade that makes a lot of preppers feel would make a lot of preppers feel ashamed of themselves. And a lot of my friends have as well. And I've surrounded myself by a lot of people that are like-minded when it comes to that. So it's not something that I want, but it's something that I've definitely prepared for. But how many people do you know, especially those that call themselves conservatives, that when the rubber meets the road, you tell them that the price of fixing all of this is going to be basically an economic collapse, because we're going to have to expose every CEO of every major corporation, everything that goes on here, and that will cause riots in the streets. It will cause economic collapse and could cause the collapse of our own government. How many people are willing to actually do that when you tell them what the consequences of that are going to be, especially when they have to tell their children, look, this is what we're going to have to do. It's probably going to cause decades of turmoil, because that's what it's going to cost to fix all this. This is 80 years of damage that we have to undo. And we want to undo it in a 4-year term of President Trump. Not necessarily feasible, but also in the age of after we've been hollowed out with COVID, how many people are actually willing to make that sacrifice? A lot of people say that they are, but I think most people don't. I really think that most people don't. And that's the problem that I have, because there's so many people, and the people that piss me off the most are people on the right, because they're the ones that are the biggest contrarians of all. Because when you start bringing up all this negative shit, or when you start talking about a lot of things, they love to get angry. But when you tell them what all the consequences are of everything, a lot of them are like, well, man, I don't know if I want to go through with that. Or when you tell them, are you standing up politically? Are you, well, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to do controversy. Are you going out and protesting? Are you making a podcast to talk crap about this? Are you going to your school board meetings? Are you doing all this stuff? No, 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 and no. That's the answer that I get every single time. And then when we see things like, hey, what? Oh, President Trump. Oh, look, he's going to go ahead. He's going to bomb everything. He's going to commit a war crime if he does this. Oh, and then when he doesn't do it and he starts negotiating, which is what all these people on the left and all these other people that were supposedly on the right start talking about, they're like, oh, look at that. He's a punk ass and it's Taco Tuesday. It's like, what the fuck are you supposed to do when you see this shit? That's where it is. And agree with him or not, because honestly, I think that there's other ways that Trump could have handled this. I understand the big picture, and I do think at the end of the day, not for nuclear stuff, not for helping the Iranian people, I can see the power play to break the back of globalists in China and going after Iran. But even I can disagree with what would have been strategically sound. I don't understand why we allow the Gulf of Hormuz to get closed and we keep allowing oil tankers to go to Asia. Now, if some of those tankers are going to South Korea and Japan, I'm totally fine with that because they're our allies. But the fact that when China still gets oil, that's total bullshit, and I don't see the play there. That I don't see. So if somebody could answer that question, that would be great. Because I think that we should have been interdicting every Iranian ship that came out of the Strait of Hormuz and taking that oil for ourselves. Because that's another thing I'm sick and tired about. If we're going to go in and we're going to bomb the shit out of these countries, let's at least take their stuff. And oh my goodness, that's so immoral. That's such a terrible thing to say. The United States has been doing immoral stuff for decades right now. And at least it's time for somebody to do it and be honest about it and say, you know what? I am going to take Carg Island. I'm going to steal all their oil, and there's nothing that they're going to be able to do about it. That's essentially what we did with Venezuela, and everybody loved it. Everybody seems totally okay with that because it worked out perfectly. But the moment that there is any sort of difficulty or anything like that, it's like, no, we can't do it. It's terrible. It's not worth it. Oh, $4 a gallon. Now I'm pissed. He's a piece of shit. I'm not going to go there. You know, it's just like, what the hell do people want? What do you want? There's no way to get out of where the United States is without making severe sacrifices. Either we sit here and we do nothing, or we can also sit here and take the 20 years that it's going to take. Trump's not going to be able to do it. Let's say that Trump does a lot of things that we want him to do. He's not going to be able to do it in 4 years. We also have a piece of shit GOP that's not going to do anything to help us. And here's the other thing. And I agree. We're screwed. We're screwed in a lot of ways because you see the amnesty bill this Dignity Act or whatever bullshit that that a lot of Republicans are signed on, and we'll go through which Republicans are doing that. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Why should we give the GOP our votes? And the problem is, now more than ever, we are dealing with a lesser of two evils scenario here, and it is horrendous that we are where we are. It is absolutely horrendous because we see what happened in Virginia. Virginia is actually the perfect example of what is going to happen if we lose the midterms. And I really don't have any solution here. The Libertarian Party is not a solution, and I'll go into why as well. But look at what happened in Virginia. Virginians, GOP voters in Virginia were dissatisfied with how things were going in the Trump administration. They were pissed off at the GOP, and they allowed the Democrats to win. And what have the Democrats done? They have passed a record amount of taxes on every single thing from freaking lawn equipment to jobs. They're restricting guns. They're going to redistrict the state to the point where it's going from basically 55-45 Democrat and Republican to probably over 80% Democrat. And essentially they're going to California, Virginia, where it will never be able to recover and it will never be a Republican state again. But we have to show the GOP a lesson, and we have to say, F you guys, we're going to screw you. Who's getting fucked in that situation? We are. And yes, they don't deserve, we don't deserve to be in this position. We don't, but we're responsible for it. This is what I've said. It doesn't matter if we cause the problem. This is decades of things stacking up against us, and we're going to have to pay the price for it, whether we want to or not. We can sit here, we can cry to the boomers, and we can say, oh, this is your fault. Your generations did this. It doesn't really fucking matter whose fault. And yes, I'm cursing today. Lord, forgive me. I'm pissed. And now I've just completely lost it on this one. But yeah, I'm pissed because I don't see any other solution here other than we voted for this guy in 2024. This is a ride to the end, at least until 2028. That's the only choice we got. If we jump off the wagon now, then, hey, it was all a freaking waste. And I can tell you that we're really going to be screwed. We're really going to be screwed because Virginia is the perfect example. The Democrats are telling us exactly what they're going to do. They're going to double and triple down on all of their bullshit. They're going to become more duplicitous and authoritarian. They may not be able to pass the trans gay communist bullshit that they were before because a lot of people have woken up to that stuff, but they will absolutely push their totalitarian regime. They will push Islamofascism. They will allow illegals to stay here in perpetuity, and they will allow the invasion of this country to continue. They will go after our guns. They will go after our First Amendment rights, and they will take absolutely every single thing that they can from us, and they will do it as quickly as possible. That is what's going to happen. So if we don't heed what is going on there, there's really only one solution. The Libertarian Party is not a solution because what is going to happen in one or two election cycles once the Democrats get in power again. The first thing that's going to happen is once we lose the midterms, if we only lose the House, then Trump is going to be a lame duck president for 2 years. If we lose the House and the Senate, he's going to get impeached. And once he gets impeached again, they might actually have the votes to get rid of him. And once that happens, all hell is going to break loose. So these are some of the consequences that we're dealing with. If we lose the presidency in 2028 and we lose both chambers of Congress and they get the full stack after all of this, they're going to go after Trump, his entire administration, anybody that supported him, anybody that helped in entertainment. They're going to crush us. The social media companies are going to turn against us again. If you don't think that they're going to try to go after Elon Musk and nationalize his companies and take them away, I think that that's insane not to assume that's going to happen. They're going to double and triple down on AI authoritarianism because what government can resist AI? And look, I know we've got Palantir and these companies that are pushing this with the neocons on the right as well. I don't really know what to tell you. I hate the communists a lot more. I think I can deal with the right, and at least we can still subvert the right and try to get libertarian type of candidates in the Republican Party. There's no hope in subverting the Democrats. The Democrats are completely lost. So that's pretty much what we're dealing with. We're dealing with basically greed and corruption on the right and absolute depravity and evil on the left. That's what we're dealing with. I can deal with greed and corruption and I can try to stop that. I can't, when we're dealing with absolute demonic evil, which is what the left is, that is an existential threat to all of us. And I don't really know what to say. And I don't have any other prescriptions because punishing the GOP is obviously not going to be an effective tactic because all that does is boomerang on us because there is no other way to go. So if we vote third party, that's just going to split the right. We're going to lose. And look at the libertarians. Look at the libertarians. They're a freaking joke most of the time because even they've got right and left wing factions and they can't agree on stuff. You got half of them that are open borders, pure capitalistic without morality bullshitters. And you've got the other guys that are constitutionalists that are the ones that we would want. But at the same time, they've got no stomach to do anything and fight for anything. So that's pretty much where we are. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I say we ride it out until 2028. We give this guy as much power as we can in the short amount of time. And we hope that he can have some sort of influence because I can tell you that what Donald Trump is going to do is not worse than what the left is going to do. And that's pretty much where we're at. There is no other recourse. We don't have enough time. The United States is at the precipice. This is not being black-pilled. This is not being overly negative. This is looking at everything that we're dealing with and understanding what time it is and who our enemies are and what they're capable of doing and looking at history and how empires and nations have fallen. The United States is in that exact position. But we're also in a position where we do have our superpower status and we can make some things change. Unfortunately, we are not going to get everything that we want. That is a fact of the matter. There are too many problems that we are dealing with right now, and we will not be able to resolve all of them. And I don't know which ones we can resolve first. And I don't have enough. I have enough of a big picture view to understand what our problems are. I don't have enough of a big picture view or the information to tell you absolutely how everything is interconnected the way that somebody within the government would. It's clear that we're being manipulated by forces within and without, by other countries, by our own intelligence organizations, by politicians. I don't know who's lying and who's telling the truth. And that is a horrible place to be in. The only thing that I have is my own faith. I have faith in the Lord. And at the end of the day, the world is supposed to end. I don't know when it's going to, but we know that there's a 7-year period where it all goes to crap until our Lord and Savior comes back. And it looks like we're going to lose, but in the end, we win. But that period, that period up until that point, which who knows when that's going to happen. And anybody that tells you that they know when it's going to happen or that they can bring that about is foolish, a liar, is at minimum a liar and at maximum a blasphemer, because nobody knows. Nobody knows when any of that's going to happen. It could happen, it could start in a few months. It could happen at the end of time, you know, or 1,000 years from now. I don't know. I really don't know. What I do know is that is where we're at. That is where we're at. Rolo for president of the United States and then Venezuela. See, I couldn't be the president of the United States because half of our own constituency would be pissed off at me because everybody wants to hear the truth until the truth is not what they want to hear. And this is also a big problem that this is kind of a microcosm of everything, right? This is part of why the church until recently has been falling apart, because everybody, and the left has capitalized on this too, because look at all the things that the left preaches: tolerance, equality, rights for everybody, let's help the poor, and do all these things. They basically pushed a secular version of Christianity for a long time. But if you don't teach Christianity without talking about the consequences of sin, without talking about, repentance, and then ultimately that you can get redemption through grace, then what are you doing? What are you doing? You're only teaching half the story, and you're actually marching people on a path to hell. Because They don't understand. They think that that just being a good person in an earthly sense means that you're going to go to heaven. That's not true. That's a lie. And plus, who is actually good? There's nobody in this world that is good. The only one that was good died on the cross for us. All of us are sinners and we're fallen and we fail each and every day. Now, some of us sin less than others, but we're all sinners and we all deserve the consequences of our sin. And it is only through the grace and the acceptance of Jesus Christ that we all make it through. And yes, now I'm going to get preachy. You guys know that's where I go a lot, but that's just the way it is. But that's why we've seen a perversion of this. We've seen a lot of weak churches that don't want to teach any of this stuff because they're like, oh man, people aren't going to like it when you say that. People aren't going to like it when we say that gay marriage is wrong and all these things. And you know, there's a difference because we've allowed this to be co-opted because again, yes, you have to let people know that they're sinners. You have to let people know that if they continue to sin, that leads to death. And I don't mean death just in the physical sense. It's a spiritual death. But you have to let them know that they can be redeemed. That's really what it's all about. It's about the redemption. So, but a lot of churches don't want to teach about that because they don't want people to feel bad. They don't want people to look in the mirror and be like, man, you know what? I've done a lot of bad things. I don't want people to remind me that these things are bad. I want to just go ahead and live in depravity all the time. I want to keep stealing from people and doing immoral things. I want to keep using drugs and harming other people. I want to keep looking at pornography and doing other things. I want to keep having, affairs out of wedlock and doing all this stuff. I just want to keep living in this world where I can do whatever the hell I want. And see, this is where a lot of these lessons go, that we have free will. We have free will, but that does not mean freedom of consequences. And this is why they've tried to destroy masculinity and all these other things as well, because they want a world without consequences where everybody can feel good. And like, oh no, like you can't be mean to people or anything like that. It's like, no, it doesn't mean that you need to be assholes to people. Yes, we know that everyone can be redeemed, but it's if they want to and they make an effort. No one is irredeemable. That's what they all forget, but people don't want to be reminded about. And you will constantly fail. We're weak. We're in the flesh. We're going to constantly do things. We're going to backslide. We're going to do things that are wrong. But if you have sincerity in your heart and ask for redemption, then you will be saved. But the problem is people don't even want to look at that. They don't want to face their own. They don't want to face themselves in the mirror. They don't want to let other people know, like, hey, you shouldn't do that. They don't want to judge others and let them know. They don't want to be judged themselves. And they feel a crippling amount of shame that they don't want to move forward through that. And that's where we are. We live in a society where there are no consequences for anything and that people don't want to be shamed, but they will shame you for even bringing any of this up. They will wholeheartedly shame you, throw your religion in your face, and they will, even though they are atheists and non-believers in their heart, they will try to throw your faith against you. And anytime that somebody does that, just tell them to screw off. You're not going to listen to people. I'm not going to listen to an atheist or I'm not going to listen to an atheist or a Muslim talk to me about Christianity and my faith. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. What do they have to say? They have nothing to say. They don't believe. They have no credibility in this whatsoever. None. And then we see so much infighting within our own faiths and denominations too, when we should try to be united. Yes, we've got a lot of differences between Catholics, Orthodox, Protestants, and we got a lot of kooky denominations in between, let's be honest. And we have a lot of fake churches too that have completely gone down the path of demonism. But ultimately, we do have to turn back to the faith. We do have to take these churches back, and we have to use the church, whether it's the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, or any of your, many denominations or non-denominations of Christianity that we have. We have to take back that sense of service, and we have to do more. That is ultimately what we have to do. The reason we are losing is because we silo ourselves. We become so obsessed with the rights of the individual on the right. and in libertarian circles, because we're always about individual rights, individual rights, individual rights. Well, that's great. That is great until it just becomes selfishness. And that is something that I have struggled with in seeing in other people, where so many people are like, I worked really hard my entire life. I busted my ass. Everybody else can do it. I'm not going to help anybody. And it's like, look, dude, I totally get it. Especially when you see people that don't give a crap and they take things for granted and they don't want to work. That's a different story. But when you see people that are legitimately struggling and they're trying to do hard, and maybe there's a way that you can help them, doesn't mean you got to give them money or anything like that. Sometimes it's just advice. Sometimes it's just being there. Sometimes it's volunteering, especially if you're somebody that's pretty successful. You own your own business. You've had a good family, and you can try to set an example for people to give them hope or to give them a leg up. A lot of times they'll start asking you, what did you do? What do you believe in? What are your principles? And when you live those principles out, it gives them credibility. You know, one of the things that I really didn't enjoy sometimes when I was in some of these panel shows was just how negative everybody got. And one of the things that I admittedly I lament is I wish that there was more hope for young people now, especially when it comes to marriage and relationships. It's a tough time, especially to be a man. I can say that. And I always wanted to try to set a positive example of masculinity and a positive relationship in everything that I did. Hopefully some of that came across. A lot of people probably don't even remember nowadays. Unfortunately, my life didn't turn out the way that I wish it could have. You know, things happen. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I always wanted to give people hope that you could find and have a good, positive relationship, that young men could find a good woman out there that would be supportive of them, and that, you know, they could have a life with. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Some of it is that we've been so poisoned in our negativity and by social media and by everything that is going on and our lack of faith that we've just lost hope. I think the key to a good relationship is having a center around your faith, and for men to be good leaders, especially when it comes to their faith, and a lot of things will fall into place. But the fact of the matter is, that's not necessarily the world that we live in today, and it is more difficult than ever. And a lot of things won't work out. It doesn't mean that you should lose hope or feel that, you know, especially for the guys out there. I know I've got a decent amount of women that watch the show, and I love you guys. I'm not trying to throw you all under the bus, but I know it seems like you guys suffer the consequences of men feeling this way too. Especially decent women are the ones that take a lot of the brunt of this, because it's difficult for a lot of men nowadays because they've become so red-pilled that they don't have any hope. And there's a lot of terrible examples because of social media and the way that things have moved nowadays. And there are a lot of people, and I've seen this even in the faith community, unfortunately, where we do have people that try to take advantage of people of faith, especially men of faith. And it turns out that they're not great people that are trying to use, you know, Christianity to their advantage to try to get a good man because they're trying to hide their own past or anything like that. But there's a lot of things that work in the other way, right? We have to hold ourselves to a certain standard. And this is where you're going to get into a conflict with faith and being too far into the red pill. I think that you can have a balance of both. And I think that you also, unfortunately, you can't have a sense of entitlement when it comes to relationships. I think the red pill has done a lot of good for men because it's exposed toxic femininity and feminism. It's shown men that they do need to be strong and stand their ground and protect themselves, especially in a world where the laws are very much against them, and that men have been devalued, and a world where there is no appreciation of just general masculinity and leadership from a male perspective. We know throughout history, yes, there have been oppression and things like that, but we know where leadership comes from, and it usually comes from the head. This is biblical as well. That doesn't mean that that women are subjugated by men or anything like that. Like, people misconstrue that Bible verse a lot, because yes, women should look to their husbands with respect and for leadership, but as a man, you have to be worthy of leadership as well. That's the truth. And we do also have to realize that men and women are different, and that's what makes it beautiful, and that's what can make it frustrating, right? We are very different when it comes to certain things like that. And we fight against our own instincts when we want to live a life of righteousness and a biblically centered life. It's true. We fight against the nature of a fallen world and our own lust and desires every time we do that. And it seems like they can be in conflict with one another. And you'll get critiques of both aspects, the red pill and going completely biblical when it comes to relationships. They will conflict, they will fight against one another. And some people seem to think that it's irreconcilable. I don't necessarily think so. Of course, I've been proven wrong. I've been proven wrong a couple of times, much to my dismay, but I've never lost hope. Despite the heartbreak and sadness that I've gone through. I still choose not to believe that everything is hopeless. And I still do want to set an example out there. But I think that we can't be resentful. And I'm speaking specifically to the men here. You can't be resentful. You can't lose hope. And you can't be angry about everything that is going on. And you're also not entitled to a relationship or to have a woman in your life. Let's be honest. I wish I could say that there's somebody for everyone in this world and that everybody will live happily ever after and that we can all have families and be great. I think, 60% of men throughout history end up never having children and their bloodlines die with them. That sounds very dire and negative, but it's a fact. And I think that knowing the truth, again, it's like knowing the truth about sin, right? You may not want to hear it. It may not make you feel good, but you need to know the facts so that you can prepare for your life and understand that you need to live. You need to live for things that are beyond yourself, but also understand that there's nobody that's going to save you, and not in the physical sense. The Lord can save you in the spiritual sense, and He is who you need to lean on as an individual. This goes to men and women. And does it suck being alone and not being in a relationship and not having somebody there that you feel like you can conquer the world with or raise a family with? Does it suck waking up in the morning and not having somebody that you love next to you? Of course, those things can be terrible. And there are days that you're going to feel alone and you're going to be sad about it. But you ultimately have to find your purpose and find other ways that you can serve. And maybe that's maybe if you can't serve as a husband or a father, you will always be able to serve as a son, as a brother, as a sister, as a friend to those around you. And that's what you have to look at beyond yourself. You do have to find a purpose beyond yourself while also bettering yourself. You can't fall into a hole of despair and be angry and crawl into the basement or go off into the middle of nowhere. You do need to pursue excellence, because as you pursue excellence, you do bring more and more excellence into your orbit. If you're a sulky, angry person all the time, nobody wants to be around you. It's a bummer. Even if you're being realistic, it doesn't mean that you lie to people, but we need to lead by example. So continue to pursue excellence, pursue your career, the things that you love, make more money, all these things. And these pursuits aren't out of greed, because ultimately, the more resources that you have at your disposal, the more that you can help other people that are actually in need. If I'm poor and on the street, I mean, a lot of people may pity me. Maybe they'll see my fight to survive. But I think somebody that comes out of a pit of despair and that is able to turn their life around, living in a godly way, in a moralistic way, and that then continues to climb up and up and up and gain wealth and success, that is an inspiration to a lot of people. Especially, it is more difficult the more that you have a lot of time to maintain your faith. It's easy to feel bad and to turn to God in your moments of need. A lot of times it's when you have everything and you're at your best is when we don't turn to God. And that's something that I can say that I've been a victim of, or that I've done. I'm not even being a victim because it's your own fault when this happens. When you have everything, you start taking it for granted, and you need to have gratitude and to be grateful. Remember what you have, remember what it took to get what you have, and never forget that at any moment, for any reason, whether it's your fault or not, all of it can be taken away. And it can be taken away just through death. It can be taken away by losing a job. It can be taken away by you making a bad decision that makes people turn against you. It could be taken away because somebody chooses to do that and they betray you. And then things that you built fall apart. It could be any matter of reasons. So you always need to be prepared for that. Don't live in panic. Don't live in fear. But you do need to be ready. Again, you may not be the entire reasoning of your circumstances, but no matter what, you're always responsible for how you deal with your circumstances, whether you created them or not. And let's be honest, most of us created our own circumstances one way or the other. Sometimes we're blind to things that we didn't see, things that we could have prevented, betrayals that we could have seen coming, or even, hey, if you eat badly and you get fat, you're going to get diabetes, or you might get cancer or something like that. If you smoke too much, if you drink too much, you're going to have issues. So a lot of that is like, well, yeah, I should have seen that coming and I could have made different choices. But it's never too late to start and to try to turn yourself around. If you don't try at all, then that's really where you failed. So yeah, that went on a lot of crazy tangents there, and that's usually the way it is. And here we go. We've gone through more than an hour of talking about all this stuff. Let's get a little bit more into the specifics. You know, we do have a lot of things that speaking of gratitude and being grateful, we can be angry about a lot of things. We don't know if this peace deal or this ceasefire is going to last or how it's going to go. There's a lot of disinformation everywhere. Is the Strait of Hormuz open? Is it closed? Because Israel started bombing Lebanon. Did the Iranians do that? Should we be angry at Israel, or should we be angry at the evil Islamic regime for finding any excuse not to hold their end of the bargain when Lebanon isn't their own country? I don't know. You guys can get angry at whoever you want. I really don't care. And I don't know who you should be mad at anyway. All I know is that at this point, we should pray for the best outcome that benefits the United States the most. That's really all that we want. If we're America first, if continuing the campaign and bombing the crap out of Iran and taking their oil ends up benefiting the U.S. the most, then yeah, let's go for it. If we get a ceasefire now and we've got peace and we've deteriorated Iran enough and they're not going to be a threat in the future and we don't need to get involved in the Middle East as much anymore, that's awesome. More power to it. I can't tell you which one of those outcomes is going to lead to the best one that we want. So I don't know. So that's how it is. Should you trust a country whose leadership has been completely deteriorated at this point? I think that's another fact of the matter. I don't think that there's really anybody in control over Iran, and we can negotiate with different factions. But see, what we can learn from Iran too is a lesson that we're going to learn from the left, and that we've learned from the left many times. And that is when you put fanatics are either in charge or are used for power, and then you start trying to moderate or back off from some of that, the fanatics are never going to quit because they're the true believers. So I think at this point with Iran, if we've eliminated their leadership and we have moderates left, I don't think that the moderates can control the IRGC. So I don't know what you do. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to have to annihilate most of the fanatics in Iran to have any sort of success there. Maybe we could hope for a civil war. That'll still destabilize the Strait of Hormuz. But maybe if we take control of Karg Island and their resources and then let Iran fall into chaos where we don't have our own troops dealing with it, maybe that's the way to do it. Because the mistakes that we made in Iraq and Afghanistan were trying to stay in and hold those governments together. After we went in and did what we had to do, we probably should have just let them fall into chaos and pulled out of there, or taken what we needed and bailed out. That probably would have been the better option instead of trying to help fix these things, because you can't fix a culture that is antithetical to the United States. There isn't. And yes, there are a lot of Persian people, we'll call them the Persians versus the Iranians, that are educated, they're not Islamic, and they do want peace. But let's be honest, those people have never fought in their lives. So to expect them to be able to overthrow, without any sort of help, hardened Islamic fanatics that are willing to die for their cause, I don't really know. I don't really know. So we'll see what the best outcome is. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm just going to pray that whatever we decide to do, that it does end up being the best outcome in the long run. So, but I think sometimes when you're in it, you gotta go all in, or else the damage wasn't worth it. So, especially if it's not weakening China. So, not the modern Persians, yes, the bad Persians, but I'm delineating between the Iranians, which I'm calling the Iranians the modern Islamic regime, and the Persians would be the moderates that are more secular. So before it became Iran. So those types of people, the more educated populace. But again, it seems like a lot of these people, they've been in the shadows for a long time. They don't have leadership there. There are rumblings that there does seem to be some sort of civil conflict bubbling up in certain parts of Iran. We'll see how that works out. But I think it's going to be, if there is enough of the IRGC left to be able to execute people in mass, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to overthrow what's left. So I don't know what we do there. But anyway, let's move on from that, and we'll see where we go. I think that I will say, if Iran breaks the ceasefire, then I think we have to bomb the shit out of them at that point. I really don't think that we have a choice, because we're now in a damned if you do, damned if you don't state of mind. Trump is probably going to lose the midterms no matter what, because you guys aren't going to vote for the GOP. I already know a ton of you in the chat aren't going to do it. So I don't know what so tell me, if the Republicans don't pass the SAVE Act and they pass this amnesty stuff, would you still vote for the GOP if we pull out of Iran right now and gas prices drop? Would most of you do it? I don't think a lot of you would. I've seen some of the things that some of you guys say in the chat. And I get it. I totally agree. I don't think the GOP is worth saving, but I don't think that we can do anything about it. So if what is Trump supposed to do? So at this point, what does he have to lose? He's looking at what everybody that is supposedly MAGA is saying, and they're like, screw the GOP, we're not going to vote for them. And whether Trump is in or out, like, we're not going to vote for them. He's going to go all in at this point, because what does he have to lose? So if anything, kind of having that position is just going to push him even harder, because I can tell you that's probably what I would do at that point. I'd be like, okay, so you guys aren't going to, you're not going to back me up in this. I can tell you what the big picture is, which is basically stopping the globalists, trying to pull out of NATO, and trying to stop the Chinese at some point. But if we don't have if we don't have the stones to like go all in with that, then we're not going to win that. We're not. The U.S. is cooked. So just let the Democrats win. And if you guys want a civil war to solve it, that's pretty much where we're going to be at, right? Because that's going to be the only solution. Because the left is going to go full authoritarian. And if we don't try to stop them now with Trump to the best of our abilities, even if the GOP is going to do a mediocre job, this is pretty much the last shot that we have. Because I'm pretty sure the only thing that's going to happen afterwards, once the Democrats start crushing our freedom of speech and take away our guns, it's probably going to be a civil war. And then everybody that's got families here that cares about that's going to be like, what the hell happened? Like, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to do, I've got a family. I don't want them to do this. And a lot of them will capitulate and they'll just be like, go ahead. I'm not going to do this because you're going to be like Mel Gibson at the beginning of The Patriot, where he was like, no, I'm not going to vote for this because I've got a family and I'm not going to make that sacrifice. It's like, well, okay, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Either we have the pain now or we have it later. And if we have the pain later, it's going to be a hell of a lot worse. And there's no short-term solution to any of this stuff. So that's really how I see it. If you see things differently, let me know. I would love to see, like, what's the solution here? Because I think most of you are as cynical as I am. But at the same time, what are we willing to do about it? What are we willing to do about it? If it's just like, let's blame Trump because he didn't hold all of his promises, or because he does the art of the deal shit all the time. So it's like, oh, he's a taco because he didn't commit a war crime like half these people in the commentary class are saying. It's like, again, what the hell do you want? Then it's a no-win situation. Then quit bitching about everything. Just move into your mountain and don't get involved in any of this shit anymore. That's really what I have to say. That's where I'm tired of it. And even as somebody that is angry about the Epstein list and all this stuff, I realize it's true. I have no right to come on here and talk about this unless I see what the sacrifices and the circumstances are going to be. That's the truth. I would have no right to complain about it. But this is where we're at. We don't have a third party that can take us back from here. The GOP is being uncooperative, but the left is evil, completely and totally evil. They are against everything that we believe in, completely against everything that we believe in and stand for. And at least a fraction, probably half, of the GOP does believe what we want. A quarter of them are truly irredeemable and are on the side of the left. And then the other portion just goes with the wind, and they're just happy to be there. Like, I'm in Congress. I'm just happy. I don't want to piss anybody off. And that's how it is. That's what we see in the Supreme Court with John Roberts, right? That son of a bitch never wants to do anything that may disrupt the norms or do anything. Oh, no, we can't. Birthright citizenship. Can't go against that because that's going to rock the boat. That's going to be against certain things here. You know, we got to be better than this. It's like, no, you don't give me this moralistic bullshit when the other side wants to freaking kill us. Like, that's where they are. They're telling us they're going to take everything away. They're going to take away all of our rights. We saw they killed Charlie Kirk. They've killed other conservatives. They riot in the streets. They've got NGOs that pay for everything to bring in agent provocateurs. We know that a lot of them would bring in illegals and put them in the military to turn against us if they wanted, if that was an ends to their means. We see what's going on in Europe and all these other countries. That's exactly what they're doing. So I'm just at the point, it's like, where do you want us to go? Unless you want to start the dance. Unless you want to start the dance. That is it. That is all we have. And if you want to start the dance, don't even talk anymore. There's no point. Just bunker yourselves up and get ready for the dance then. And if you don't know what the dance is, I'm not going to explain it to you because you should know what the dance is at this point. Do you know what time it is or not? I don't want to get to that point. I've prepared for it and I don't want it. Nobody wants it. I have enough friends that have fought in wars overseas and have told me enough stories that I don't want a civil conflict in this country. But that is probably the direction that we are going to go if the left wins, because they're going to triple down on all of their bullshit, because they're tripling down everywhere and they're going to be more desperate than ever, because we've actually punched them in the face a couple of times during this second Trump administration. And we started it before. And yes, even Trump is going to falter a lot of times and he's going to punk out. But not everything is freaking Taco Tuesday, and we can't have it both ways. It is as if more people want to be right about their narrative and about their grift than about whether the outcome is good for this country. And that's what really pisses me off. It's a lot of people that they're full of shit. They're absolutely full of shit. And either it's because of money or pride, they're sitting there and they're saying, hey, I'm just going to hedge my bets. I'm going to go completely against all this stuff. And even when I'm proven wrong, I'm just going to take up a contradictory point. They're acting like the left. That's how it is. It's just, I really don't know what else to think about it. It really is some sort of poison that's emanating through the air. It's spiritual warfare that we're dealing with. That's why at the end of the day, all you can do is pray about it. You know, we can sit here and we can talk all day about it. We can go back and forth and we can do all this stuff, but it's just like, dude, like, I don't know what to tell you. Twitter's just become such a cesspool. It's so useful in certain things because it's true. We do get a lot of breaking news and stories before it happens, but it's being completely undermined by everybody now. And it is, again, I'm going to keep going back to this. You know, what do some of these people stand for? What do they actually want? I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. And to think that we can have it all too and have everything perfect, that's the type of utopian, insane thinking that got the left where we were. We do have to be realistic. And again, I'm going to keep saying this because it is my new favorite phrase. It doesn't matter whether it was our fault or not. It is now our responsibility to deal with the consequences. That is it. Can't go hide from it. Can't do anything about it. I guess we can just bunker up. I mean, if you've got enough stuff, if you got farmland and all this stuff, I can go bunker up down the street and just be like, you know what? Screw all this stuff. I live on a nice tropical island and there's farm animals over there. I could live off the land and do all that stuff. I prepared during COVID. My family in Florida is fine. And so are most of my friends around there because they believe in all this Kool-Aid. But how is this? Look, can we blame the boomers when they had a lot less information than we did too? You can blame the hippies. I think you can blame the hippies. My parents were boomers and they taught me right. I know that a lot of you were probably raised by boomers as well. So we can generalize it, but I don't think that is. I think a lot of boomers taught us the right way too. But I think we do have a lot more information than anything. You can blame whoever you want, but it doesn't matter. What good is blaming going to do anything? If you want to burn the witches at the stake, go ahead. That doesn't solve your problems. All you did was burn somebody, whether they were responsible for it or not. It might make you feel better for a second, but it's not going to be, it's not going to do anything. So yeah, we can complain about previous generations, but guess what? The boomers are going to die off in like 10 or 20 years. What's going to happen then? So either we try to take some control here or we can just complain all day. Like that's it. And complaining all day doesn't really solve anything. You know, even ranting all the time. Like I'm trying to tell you guys, I don't know all the answers and I am complaining about certain things, but I'm also like, look, here are certain things you can do. If you don't want to do those things, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Then tell me what you think the solution is and that we can do in less than one election cycle. If you have an answer to this in less than one election cycle, feel free to let me know. I don't think that we have that much time. I think all we can do is try to win and maintain and get the most that we can out of what we can with Trump. That's it. That's it. The Democrats obviously hate him. That much is obvious. And the Democrats are, let's be honest, they are our mortal enemies. The Democrat Party is the number one enemy to the American people. There's no doubt. The left is. So knowing that that is true, I think the hierarchy goes, the left is our number one enemy. And then the Chinese and the Islamo-fascists, the communists and Islam is our number two enemy. But I think they all collude with one another too. The globalists are involved in that too, but that's I kind of block them in with the leftists. And the leftists are using Islam as their weapon, even though Islam is eventually just going to take them out and they're playing the long game. So the Chi-Coms and the Muslim extremists are playing the long game. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. Those are ideologies that transcend the modern West. So they're going to play the long con, and they're going to take advantage of the left-wing progressives. So that's really where we are. So I think we really are, and I really hate to say this because this has been the GOP strategy for so long, but as the left has become more evil and retarded, because that's what they are. They're simultaneously evil and retarded. That's really the only way to do it, to say it. It has forced us into a corner where we're going to have to rely on people that will probably end up stabbing us in the back, or we have to run ourselves. Really, that's what it is. If somebody wants to give me like I don't know how much it costs to win an election now, a few $1,000,000, then maybe I can try. They'll try to roast me over the coals for a lot of the things I've said over the years. That's for sure. And on the conservative side, they'll definitely go after you. Oh man, he's a man who got divorced and all this stuff. They'll always go after that stuff. You just can't be afraid of it. So if somebody wants to invest in a campaign fund and find a plan, maybe I could run for office. I really don't want to. I don't want to, but at the end of the day, service is probably what we're going to have to do. And I do think as Christians, we can't sit on the sidelines with this. Look at what we've been seeing. See, there is some courageousness that we've been seeing, and I think it does show that the kingdom is on the move and that we are getting a revival in certain parts. And I'm sorry that it took so long to get to this point, but seeing the rescue operation of our pilot, and I do want to believe that when he radioed in, he did say that God is good. Seeing that it happened over the course of Good Friday to Easter was an incredible story. Seeing what the astronauts on Artemis were saying in their unified faith in the Lord and the messages that they had back for Earth, it does give me hope, because we can see that there are men and women who are brave and courageous, not just because of the things that they've done in serving in the military and doing things that are dangerous, whether it's fighting in combat or going into the depths of vacuum in a small space capsule that if something goes wrong, you're dead in an instant and there's nobody that can come and save you. That they are not afraid to affirm their faith in the Lord, because so many people have been so afraid to talk about that because it's not popular. Nobody wants to hear about it. Nobody wants to be preached to. That's one of the things that I was afraid to talk about for a long time, and now I basically mention it every episode. And it's not to virtue signal or anything like that. It is because we have to be bold and we can't be afraid to affirm our faith and to talk about it. We don't have to beat people over the head with it, but we do have to have hope. And so there are things to be proud of as Americans, and there are things that we can still achieve that are incredible. And rather than looking at the negative things, like, oh man, it took Artemis so many years to get there, or oh man, look at all the assets that it took, or all these people that are saying, oh look, now one of our planes got shot down after Trump said that we had theirs. It's like, come on, man, do you know the statistics that have gone down between this? Did you know that during the first Gulf War, coalition forces in a month lost like 70 aircraft against Iraq? And back then we had F-117s, we had B-2 bombers, we had cruise missiles and all that stuff. We had satellite coverage. So that war is a little bit closer than what we have now. And we still lost 70 aircraft in a month. We lost a couple. We lost one to man pads, most likely. Or maybe it's these new infrared missiles that the Iranians are getting from the Chi-Coms. That's possible too. We were able to rescue the pilots. We lost another plane that was there to help rescue the pilot. We sent hundreds of troops in to extract these guys. We ran a feint when we couldn't extract those aircraft. We sent more aircraft in and we didn't get any, nobody died. That's incredible. That's something to be proud of as an American, or at least be amazed by, that we've had the measure of success. If you look at the Iran war and you only see failure because gas prices are going up and a bunch of other countries are getting pissed off at us, I think that sometimes we're missing a little bit of the point here, because I think that you're seeing that, yes, despite our corruption, despite all of this, this is a way the United States has not waged a conflict in this way in decades. We have not. This is clearly, from a military perspective, geopolitically, I can't tell you everything that's behind it. I can't tell you if it's been perfectly fought. But from a military perspective, I can't really think of another conflict that has ever gone like this one. So I mean, I don't really know what to say. And it proves again that we as Americans care about our people. We care about our warriors, and we don't want to leave anybody behind. And we will move hell or high water to get them back. And that gives you faith as a soldier, as an airman, as a sailor, as a Marine. That when you go out there, if something happens, we're going to try to get you back any way that we can. And you know, one of my buddies, one of my best friends here was a Ranger and fought in the War on Terror. And that's one of the first things that he told me. He's like, one of the things that I always knew is that if I was caught behind fire, I knew that there was going to be somebody that came back for me. Even if I was dead, they were going to try to bring me home back to my family. And to hear from somebody that has fought against Islamic terrorism, who has put his life on the line, that has friends that died in conflict. One of my other best friends is a Marine, fought in Fallujah, told me those stories. One of my cousins was also in the Army and did 3 tours in Iraq, and they've told me all of the same stories. And that is something that I can have pride in as an American citizen. And as somebody whose family has served in the military. My father, my uncle, my aunt, my grandfather, my half uncle, like I said, my cousin, many others. That does give me a sense of pride. It really does. To know that we do have a military, and especially now under this administration, we have a military that is willing to do what it takes to actually fight and defeat our enemies. Not worried about bullshit rules of engagement that get our men and women killed, or that cause us to actually fail and lose wars. That's part of the problem. We don't know how to win anymore. Give ourselves the win, ladies and gentlemen. We've been demoralized. They've been telling us at every level, whether it is pride in being an American, wanting to advocate for our faith, being prideful about your heritage, whether you're white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, or whatever, making you feel guilty about that, making you feel guilty for being a man, making you feel guilty for being straight and for being against the transgenderism BS, standing up for our history, all of that stuff. Take the W's when you can get them and feel a sense of pride. And I do think that is why, despite the controversy and despite prices going up because of oil and the conflict in Iran, Trump and the GOP's poll numbers have gone up like 10% since 2 weeks ago. And I think that is because, and it may not last, we can't win midterms on a whim. We can't win everything on a whim. And in some ways, it shows how fickle we are as voters, which is a problem because we're not really willing to stand up sometimes when we need to, and understand that in war, there's going to be victories and defeats, but ultimately it's about winning the entire conflict. You may lose battles along the way. There will be disappointments along the way, but we have to see this through until the end. Until this administration is done and we see what's going to happen in 2028, we got to continue the fight. I don't really know any other way that we can do it, because there's not going to be any reinforcements here in the middle. We're stuck where we are. So if we want to continue to have our enemies stack the deck against us and reinforce themselves and get themselves ready for the onslaught, that's fine. Because the longer that we keep acting like individuals and go into silos, the easier that we will be able to literally be to pick off as the time goes on. Because that's what they're going to do. Our enemies believe in collectivism. That's what they are. They are a mass of lemmings, and they will combine all of their forces to destroy us at the end of the day. And if we're all sitting alone in our little bunkers, it's going to be a million Alamos. Yes, people will be courageous. They will stand up to the end heroic, and they will ultimately lose and die for nothing. That is what's going to happen. So either we prepare now and we try to keep this coalition going for as long as possible. And being a coalition means we're not going to get everything that we want. It's true. Look at the disparate groups that voted for President Trump in 2024. We got a lot of blue collar union workers. We got young men. We got Hispanics and black young men to come together. We got disaffected liberals, former GOP. We got the anti-vaxxer MAHA crowd with RFK. We got the anti-war crowd with Tulsi Gabbard. And we got the Dude Bro podcasters with Joe Rogan. Did you guys realistically think that we were going to all be happy with how things were going to work out? There were going to be fractures at some point, and that was to be expected. The difference is that our enemies literally are willing to burn in hell for their ideologies, even though they're against each other. And that doesn't mean that we compromise everything that we believe in, but good grief, we at least have to see the battle through until the end of 4 years, unless you know for a fact that we've been completely sold out and betrayed, which I haven't seen that yet. I don't really know where else to go. I really don't know where else to go. Den Hawken, do you have a solution for me? Because you love to talk and say everything like this. And I love you, buddy. I do. But what is the solution here? Where would you like to go? So we blame Trump for everything. We just say, fuck him. So that's it. We're just going to go into our bunkers and we're going to Alamo up. Is that really what we can do? That's the problem. I don't really, what's the solution here? Tell me what is the solution? That's what I don't see. I don't see a solution here. All I have is I am pissed off and I want to blame him for breaking promises. That's it. We can do that. I blame him for the Epstein list and all these other things. There are a lot of other things that he's done that have worked out. So what is this? Or do we blame Israel? Oh yes, we blame a country that has like 7 million people, and we say that they have full control over a superpower. But we disregard the globalists, we disregard the leftists, we disregard communist China. Somehow Israel has more control over the United States than any of those enemies that are fully embedded everywhere and that have permeated for decades everywhere. Permeated for decades everywhere. And many of these enemies existed before Israel came to be in 1948. That's what we do. It's a cop-out to me. It's a total cop-out. You can blame everybody if you want. It is death by 1,000 cuts. We can do all that. And we can go Fortress America, which again, Fortress America is going to take 10 or 20 years to build. So that's it. We either go full isolationist or we try to see where everything is through here. And that's it. So that's it. We just get angry. We throw it away. So that's really all that we have. That's really all that we have. If we can give up and that's it, we want to complain, we can totally do that. That is totally fine at the end of the day. And then we can all sit smug and we can be like, see, I'm going to sit here principled. I'm not going to vote for any of these people and I'm going to sit on the wayside. But at the end of the day, we're all going to, we're all just going to get smoked at the end of the day. That's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to go. That's it. And yes, Bondi was a bad choice. She got fired. She embarrassed a lot of people. But that's really where we're at. Like what more can we possibly do at this point? What more can we possibly do? I think that was a critical error. I do. And believe me, if you think that I don't go on this every day with the old man, I do. I go crazy on the Epstein list all the time. I think that was a massive failure. I can also see what circumstances may have led to not fully releasing it. Maybe it's being used as leverage to try to get other goals. I think that's terrible. Now, I'm willing to say if we can prove that that's all true, then we deserve to fail as a country. That's fine. But again, are we prepared for the consequences of that? If we're prepared for a complete collapse of the United States, that's totally fine. Again, I'm a Christian, so if we're going to get burned at the stake and persecuted at the end of the day, bring it on. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. I'd like to believe that I know where my soul is going to go. You know, I've made peace with that. I don't think most people are. And that's also a huge problem that we have, that how many people on our own side are willing to go down that path and go down that fight. I don't even think it's the 80 million people that voted for President Trump. I think that when push comes to shove, if you tell most people what it's going to take in order to completely dismantle everything that we're fighting against, especially if they want it done in 4 years, they're going to be like, you know what, man? Nah, I don't want to lose my jobs. I don't want my kids to deal with like a civil conflict. I don't really want to do with that. Like, maybe we can just be nice with the left and they'll leave us alone for a little bit. Or, maybe it's not so bad if we don't do these certain things. That's really where I'm at. It's like, what do we do at this point? Where do we go? Where do we go? And then anybody that thinks that Trump may have been on the list or anything like this, then why didn't the Democrats get rid of it and use it as blackmail against him for years? I don't know. I would love to know all of these things. I would love to know all of these things. And again, I mean, old Renaissance boomers not wrong here. Was it all deleted beforehand? Because let's also be honest. If I'm the intelligence aide, let's bring in something that I haven't talked about. And honestly, I haven't even thought about this so much myself. But think to yourself logically. These are things that we should do. If I'm the intelligence agencies, and I've been using the Epstein list for leverage, doesn't matter which intelligence agency it is, they're all colluding with one another. It's the Five Eyes and the Mossad. Let's be honest, they're all involved. I hate it when people say it's just the Mossad and the Israelis. No, it's the CIA, it's the NSA, it's MI6, it's all of them. All of them were involved in this. It's obvious. It doesn't matter. They all had something to benefit. The intelligence agencies are the ultimate mafia, and they've got leverage over everybody. So if I've got all this information, and then I see that President Trump, who they've tried to take out several times already, falsifying evidence, having old CIA directors come against him and do all this stuff. And then I see that he wins. Why would I not get rid of all of it? Why would I not? Why would I allow it to be there for them to use against me? Now, Trump's mistake is maybe he went in there and he's like, oh shit, they got rid of everything. How do I go in here and tell everybody? I don't know. Maybe in that sense, he's being chicken shit and he didn't want people to do it. Maybe he felt that maybe when he got in there, he realized that so much of the intelligence agencies and the feds, the FBI, the DOJ were so fully compromised that maybe they weren't able to get him. Maybe they're able to get his kids. He's got a lot of family. He knows they're going to come after that. Again, how many people are willing to sacrifice their families even for the country? There's a lot of people that might say they want to do it. Most people won't. Most people won't. Let's be honest. And Trump, it seems like he's been touched a little bit more by faith, but I don't really know what Trump's status of Trump's status is when it comes to that. Why do most people that go into Congress that seem to be idealists then all of a sudden change their tune when they get in there? I think it's because most of them get a folder that's slid to them, and even if they're clean and impeccable, their mother might not be, their father may not be, their spouse may not be, everything. Everything. So I think, see, a lot of you guys understand this yourselves and you seem to agree with it. So I think at that point too, it's like, it's any of the above. Now, maybe it's still there and Trump is using it for blackmail. I don't know. Now, Trump's biggest mistake was he should have fired Bondi the minute that she pulled that stunt. I think Trump's biggest problem is pride. We can definitely say that. He hates to be wrong. And we saw how many bad people he had in his first administration. I think that he's trying to avoid firing people immediately because he sees that as a sign of weakness, or he doesn't want people to see that his judgment isn't that great sometimes. He's not infallible. I think the art of the deal strategy works for him a lot. I think in other ways it blows up in his face. And it's kind of like when he gave the speech, the speech about Iran last week, and he's like 2 or 3 weeks. It was like, dude, like, what was the point of that speech? There was no point. You just said the same things that you were saying the last couple of weeks, that it might be 2 or 3 more weeks. I think that was totally pointless. I think that Marco Rubio actually articulated the objectives of what we were doing in Iran earlier that same day much better than Donald Trump did. And Donald Trump, one of his greatest flaws is when JD Vance or Marco Rubio or anybody else articulates his own policy better than he does, he always seems to feel the need to come out afterwards and give the last word and say, "Oh yeah, but it was my idea and I did this." It's like, dude, either you trust these people or you don't. If they already articulated the policy, you don't need to come out and say anything else. In fact, they already said it better than you can say it, or in a more disciplined way than you do. Let them cook and let them speak for you and just shut the fuck up sometimes. That's the problem that I have with Trump. Sometimes he talks way too damn much. There are times when he just has to shut up. And there are other times when he talks a lot, and it's because he's got another play to intimidate people. And yes, that does ultimately keep him unpredictable, and unpredictability is a very effective tactic against our enemies. I don't think anybody can ever really tell you what Donald Trump is going to do. Did I think he was going to go and bomb all the power plants and everything like that yesterday? Honestly, no, I didn't think he was going to do that. Because if you have listened to Donald Trump many times, first of all, you know how hard of the deal is. And don't come with me like all these people are that were supposedly on the right that are like, oh, yeah, so you want a guy that like lies to you and bluffs? We already know that this is what Trump does. This was built into him. I didn't vote for him in 2016 because that shit pissed me off. A lot of times I was like, look at this dude. He lies about shit all the time. But guess what? I started realizing it. I was like, you know what? This is a freaking tactic that he uses. And every other time he bamboozles all these. And most of the time he bamboozles the left or he bamboozles our enemies. So I was like, clearly there is a logic to this. And what is one other thing that Trump has said consistently, especially when it comes to military operations? How many times has the media asked him about something militarily? And he's like, they're like, oh, are you going to do this? Or are you going to do that? And he's like, that's such a stupid question. Why the hell would I tell you if I'm going to bomb somebody or I'm not going to do it? So you think that after Trump has said that for the last, 6 years of presidency and like, we've been dealing with him since 2016, 10 years where he's consistently said that talking about your strategic objectives is retarded. Do you think that Trump saying that he's going to bomb the shit out of their nuclear power plants and infrastructure and give the Iranians and all these NGOs a chance to put civilian shields, human shields around them? Do you think that Trump was really going to be that stupid? Like, come on. If anything, it is his cavalier attitude and the fact that people are going crazy. Oh, he's going to commit war crime. Sometimes I think he does it because he knows that there are so many people that are opposed to him and they have Trump derangement syndrome or have not figured this out by now that start panicking on Twitter, that even guys like Tucker and all these people going against him, it actually almost benefits us in some ways because our enemies are like, look at that. Even Tucker Carlson, who used to be the biggest Trumper of all, is turning against him. Even Alex Jones is turning against him now and wants the 25th Amendment. Sometimes I wonder, are the Panikins grifters, traitors, or are they actually part of a disinformation campaign and they're actually working for the administration to make it seem like there's a rift? I don't even know anymore. Because it seems like it played all out the way that it was supposed to. Now, obviously, is this going to hold out? I don't know. Yes, I agree. The Israelis probably want to annihilate Iran. It's going to be an issue. But is it all 4D chess? Does Trump play things by guts? Is he basically just Jack Sparrow, where it's a 50-50 shot? Sometimes he's an idiot savant and he comes up with the greatest like 4D or 47D chess plan ever? Or does he sometimes slip on the banana peel, somehow by some miracle land right side up, and then our enemies reveal themselves and he's like, well, hey, this isn't the way I planned it, but these guys are a bunch of retards and they just showed me, they just laid out their cards right in front of me and now I can make a move. I don't know. It's probably all of the above at the end of the day. And somehow I made it 2 hours. I don't know how that. I made it 2 hours without sharing anything on the screen, without putting any tweets up, without any articles. I don't know how this happens. I appreciate you guys watching and sticking around. I know I called some of you out, but you guys know I love you. And at the end of the day, if we can't argue, this is the difference between us and the left, right? We can call each other out, and I don't really care. Like, you guys can criticize me and bring your things up. I do want to too, because legitimately, I legitimately I want to know, like, what do you guys think are the solutions? And again, we have seen some good things here. We have, but it's a death by 1,000 cuts scenario, right? We're getting hit in every angle. One man, one president, one term can't solve anything in that short amount of time, especially when we're literally going against the entire world and forces of evil. That's really what we've got. So I wish I don't want to be in that chair. Sometimes I wish I could, and then I wish I could reveal it and be like, look, guys, like, I was right. This shit's out of control. Like, this is what we're up against. But most people don't want to hear that. And a lot of people fall into despair. There are a lot of people like us that if the president said, like, look, man, we're basically cooked. I got to do a lot of crazy shit. And even in doing this crazy stuff, like, prices are going to go up. We're going to fall into an economic depression. And no matter what, we may lose. I'd be like, you know what? Thanks for letting me know, man. I appreciate it. At least I can prepare for that, and I can be ready for it. But there are a lot of other people that are going to be like, F this guy. Let's bring in the Democrats, or let's bring in some Mitt Romney type of dude that's just they're going to whisper sweet nothings into our ears. It's like Dr. House. You guys remember that show? Everybody hated House because he was an asshole. Because he told his patients straight up, like, yeah, you're probably going to die. Or, no, you're an idiot. This bullshit's not going to work. No, you know what? I'd rather have a doctor that's an asshole that tells me like it is. And it's like, dude, you got stage 4 cancer. You're probably not going to survive. But hey, if you do this surgery, it's going to suck. It's going to suck, but you might have a shot. Or do I want the person that's just going to be like, oh, like, we'll figure this out. We're gonna do this, or all this stuff, and they just whisper sweet nothings, and then I end up dying because there was some piece of shit doctor that didn't want to tell me the truth or hurt my feelings when my life was on the line. No, I'd rather just tell me the facts, man. That's just what it is. Just make it true. But I get it. Most people aren't like that, and we live in a society where a lot of people are either weak or they just get paralyzed by fear, and then they're just, oh my goodness, it's all terrible. I don't even know what to do. No, we can't do that. And yes, Randy is correct in the chat. There's a lot of other good things that have happened. I've gone on a ranting about other people ranting for the most part, and I've gone all over the place, but that's exactly what I do. So those of you that have watched me for long enough and that appreciate what I do, you know what you're going to get. And a lot of other people, they're probably just like, what the hell is going on here, man? I don't even know. And that's okay. I'm a terrible YouTuber because I didn't say smash the like button, share the show with everyone that you share the stream with everyone you deem. Do all that stuff, help the show, become a channel member, assist however you can. I don't do this. I do this for my own time. I want to do more streams, but I work a full-time job. So this is all secondary. I will be back tomorrow. Mario Galaxy movie was amazing. The Puerto Rico Comic-Con was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I posted a short, which has done pretty well as far as like my shorts do on the channel here. We'll bring that up and we can show that real quick. So check out the shorts. I did a fly-through. I did a full walkthrough of the entire con. It's like more than 35 minutes long. You can check out if you want to see how the Puerto Rico Comic-Con kind of compares to MegaCon or any other cons that you've been to. To me, on the scale of cons that I've been to, it is bigger than Miami SuperCon, which I went to many years ago. It is get with me on that for that and for TFM. I'll check it out. I'll check out Discord. I know I'm not on there that much, but I'll load it up for you, Den Hawken. Let's get the screen share going on here. Hey, there you go. Den Hawken sent a super chat. Hey, and look, old Renaissance boomer got. Hey, at least it's somebody that's in the chat and not one of these unknown people, Den Hawkins. So that's a slight improvement. That is an improvement. Plus, we love ORB. He's a good man. Okay, so we've got our short here. Hopefully that's not too loud. You guys can check this out. And I've got a full, and this is at the Puerto Rico Conference Center in San Juan, the capital of our lovely territory here. This was early in the morning. I got in like right at rope drop, so it wasn't super full by like noon. It was getting crazy, but it's nothing like how MegaCon has especially gotten over the last couple years. I haven't been to MegaCon in like 2 years. Unfortunately, it just keeps falling outside of my schedule, so I doubt that I'll be there next year as well. But if you guys ever go to Puerto Rico and you want to come during the Puerto Rico Comic-Con, that'd be awesome. Maybe I can start climbing my way back up the creator ladder and get something done there where I can do something at this Comic-Con. So if you want to see the full extended version where I walk through all 19 rows of the con, I don't give too much commentary. I just kind of let it stew for itself. You can check that out. I did post a lot of stories on my Instagram and things like that. They're obviously gone at this point, but it was pretty awesome. I also love the venue that's right next door. Distrito T-Mobile, or the T-Mobile district. It's really sweet. There's a lot of awesome restaurants there, different attractions. They have a massive stage with like a three-story DJ tower and a stage where they play a lot of live music, and a massive LED screen on top and all over surrounding. That's like something that you'd see in like Dubai or something like that. And it's really sweet. It's right next to the cruise terminal. So if you ever are on a cruise ship and you end up in San Juan, you're going to be right next to it. You can literally walk across the street, catch an Uber, and you'll be there, and you can hang out there pretty much the entire day. So maybe that's an incentive for you guys to go to the Puerto Rico Comic-Con next year. You can kind of knock out all those birds with one stone. I will be there next year as well. I got the VIP pass. I don't know if it was worth the price, but I also didn't really go to panels and things like that. I will say this, the amount of celebrity panels and things like that, especially compared to MegaCon, is definitely lacking in that regard. But if you go to cons because you love the environment, you love being around other people that love video games, love anime, love tabletop, all that stuff, and you don't want that kind of oppressive crowding that MegaCon is notorious for now, and you kind of want to go to like MegaCon's roots of how it was like even 5 years ago, or how SuperCon has been, even though it seems like SuperCon in Miami has gotten a lot bigger too. That might be another good one if you guys go there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in anywhere. I'm in Puerto Rico until next year, God willing. Just because I got my cats here, so it's difficult to be one man traveling with 3 cats unless I've got some help. And I don't trust anybody outside of my family with my cats. You guys know how much I love Ritsu, Moo, and Lucy, and you guys love them too. So I won't be there for that, but I would highly recommend it. If you're in Miami, there's a lot of friends of the Pistoleros still in Miami, and it looks like that's going to be a great con. So Mario Galaxy movie was fantastic. I liked it at least as much, I would say, as the first Mario movie. I mean, it's a kid's movie, right? Like, what do you expect? You're not going to expect Oscar-winning performances or a crazy plot, but considering how long the movie is and all the story beats that they needed to hit, I think it was fantastic. It was a lot of It was a lot of fun. Oh, there we go. The alarm's going off for the cats. They're going to be going crazy. It was a lot of fun for the whole family. I love how they incorporated everything. If you are a fan and you've played, especially Mario Galaxy, the member berries are going to hit you. The score is incredible, and how they use the score throughout the movie and all the references and Easter eggs. Star Fox, you guys already know Star Fox is there. His introduction, that entire sequence explaining how he could possibly be in this movie was amazing, and it's pretty much what I expected, but I also didn't expect them to show it the way that they did. Was great. The meme drops are awesome, and I really cannot wait for a Star Fox movie. I think it'll be fantastic. So you guys should go watch it. If you like the first Mario movie, you're going to love it. If you're a fan of Nintendo and Mario in general, you're going to love it. I think that, it does a good job of not being woke. I love the fact that even though Peach has her own agency and she's a hero in her own way, they gave Mario moments to shine and be the hero in this one. Whereas in the first one, I know a lot of people were worried about like Girl Boss Peach and all this stuff. I think they did a great job of really balancing that. And honestly, as we've seen in newer Mario games, like Peach is a playable character, so she's not always the damsel in distress. So I think it worked in fitting with like whatever lore we get just through gameplay in Mario games, especially with all the co-op and all that stuff. So it really works. So I won't spoil more than that. They do have some great sequences that go back to like two-dimensional Mario. I won't say how those are used, but they're really incredibly well done. And it gives them an excuse to use the older chiptunes and bring in the original 2D era of Mario. I really don't have enough good things to say about the movie. So check it out. Check out Project Hail Mary if you have not seen it yet. I watched it twice. It is my movie of the year so far. What else have we got? At the end of the month, I will probably watch the Michael Jackson movie just because I'm a big fan of Michael Jackson's music. So I'm not going to be able to resist watching that. I hope it's good. Toy Story 5 is going to come out. I haven't even watched Toy Story 4. Like after Toy Story 3, I was like, what the hell, man? Like, really? Like Toy Story 3 was the perfect out. So I'll have to watch Toy Story 4 at some point, and then I'll probably watch Toy Story 5 and let you guys know. Like I said, I'm getting... with the way that politics goes, I feel like this rant can basically devolve into the same thing every week. And so it's going to start getting a little bit stagnant. So I will talk a little bit more about different things. If there's anybody that you know that would like to be on the show and have discussions and things like that, I'll more than welcome it. I don't talk about the Second Amendment as much as I used to, and I really should. So a lot of my repertoire is people that are involved in the Second Amendment community. So I think I'd have to ease my way back on there. I need to talk with the Epic Verse guys. Maybe I'll jump onto their streams again. I feel bad that I haven't been on there a long time, but I don't really want to invite myself back on there. But I do miss kind of talking with some of those guys and having the lively debates. But let people know if anybody wants to come onto the show, shoot me a DM and we'll see what we can do and we'll find something to talk about because it's always great to have conversations. But I will be back tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time with La Familia. We'll see if Doc is ever going to make a comeback. If not, we're probably going to have to recruit one of you guys in the chat to jump in there and see what happens with that. And again, we got to get away for Helmo to play Mario Kart. I forgot to give him my old Nintendo Switch. So, and he loves playing Mario Kart. He's the one that got me into it back in the day. We have a memory of arguing with each other, playing Mario Kart 64. He's not as good as he used to be. But it's also, it's not fair. Mario 64 was really his forte. So, but anyway, that's all I got for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching and for being there, for supporting the show. share it, like it, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my other channel, Roaming with Rolo. I'll drop the link right now for that other video. And again, come join us tomorrow night for some more shenanigans. Last week ended with some really good matches. We didn't get as many dubs as I would have liked, but man, I think some of those matches were really, really awesome and worth revisiting. So let's copy the link here, drop it in the chat. What is Doc working on? Doc is at that point where he has reached the point in his life where you can be comfortable, start retiring and working on things that you've wanted to do your entire life. So I can't really fault my uncle for spending time with my aunt and doing things around the house. So, what do you want me to tell you? All right, everybody. See you tomorrow. Good night. God bless you all. And God bless America. Catch you on the next one.